Yes, madam,
All
I'm
right.
all yours.
Great. Lovely. All right. So, hey everyone, welcome to the Himalayan Writing Retreat. And we have author Dhruv Nath with us, and we're going to get to know him and his book, Welcome to Aaraampur, published by Penguin India today. So, just hope we have a great session. And we will also do audience Q&A in the end. So, feel free to ask whatever you like about writing and publishing to Dhruv. I'll just begin by introducing Mr. Nath to all of you. Um, so here's just a little bit about him. So he's Professor Dhruv Nath. He is an angel investor. He's a mentor to startups, an author, and a director with Lead Angels Network. As part of this journey, he has invested in 20 startups and has mentored over 100 others.
And I've
Earlier,
lost money. And I've lost money.
and he's lost
And
money.
my wife is now prevents me from investing in startups, and so does my son.
Oh my,
So
oh
that's the
my.
subject for my next book: How to
Oh,
Lose Money.
great. Already looking forward to to it. All right. Earlier he was a professor at MDI Gurgaon and a senior vice president at NIIT Ltd. He has been a consultant to the top management of Glaxo, Gillette, Nestle, Indianoil Corporation, Thermax, Bajaj Auto, Air India. You get the picture. As well as he's been a consultant to the Prime Minister of Namibia and the Chief Minister of Delhi. Professor Nath has a BTech in electrical engineering and a PhD in computer science, both from IIT Delhi. He has written 6 books so far. 2 of these are on the subject of startups, namely The Dream Founder and Funding Your Startup and Other Nightmares. His latest
So
book,
this is these books, funding
this
your
is
stuff.
yeah.
The other is the dream form.
Yeah. So his latest book is Welcome to Aaraampur, and it's a book of humorous short stories about life in the hills of India. All 3 of these books have been published by Penguin Randomhouse.
And
So
hopefully the next many books will also be published by Penguin.
yes, way to go. All right. So that is Dhruv Nath for you, everyone. Before we begin with the questions, Dhruv is going to read a short excerpt from Welcome to Aaraampur so that you can get to know the characters better. So I'm just going to mute myself now. Dhruv, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. By the way, I must tell you, Jessica spoke about the fact that I was a consultant to the Prime Minister of Namibia, but after that he lost the election. And I was also a consultant to the Chief Minister of Delhi. After that, she died. So, I mean, you can see what kind of consultant I've been. Okay.
That is super scary.
I know. And people paid me for this. Okay. So, yeah, so what I'll do is, this book, just to give you a quick background, it's about life in the hills, particularly in Himachal, although I suspect if you go to any hills in India, it will be fairly similar. Right? So, this is one story about a barber who was earlier a professional wrestler. Okay, and he was obviously called Pahalwan Ji. And that's one of my favorite characters. And if you look at this, you can actually see him, this guy, the one right at the top. So I'll just read a little bit from here. See, Pahalwan Ji was undoubtedly a professional wrestler in his younger days, right? Alas, age caught up with him one day. It had to. He realized that he was beginning to lose bouts, right? And therefore professional wrestling had to stop. But he had to do something to earn a living. After all, he had a wife and children to support, right? Fortunately, he had been a firm believer in the government's family planning program and had limited his children to just 8. But still, this small family of his needed to be fed. And Pahalwan Ji thought long and hard. He kept thinking. And, what he thought was, he realized ideally he should use the skills he had picked up as a wrestler in whatever subsequent profession he chose. So he thought and he thought and he thought. And some of this is made up, although it's more or less from the book. So one day, while sipping a glass of tea at Baburam's tea shop, and by the way, in the hills, bidis and tea are the most common phenomenon you will see. Most common, right? Nothing happens without them. Okay, so he had a brainwave. The one skill he had definitely picked up as a champion wrestler was the ability to grab his opponent by the hair and pull it till it hurt. In the process, some strands also used to come out. And that was the answer. Why not open a haircutting salon? His skills in pulling out hair would certainly come in handy, right? Of course, there was the small matter of a pair of scissors which was needed when the tugging didn't work, but that was okay. Pahalwanji was confident that he would be able to make occasional use of this fairly useless appendage. And therefore, with a lot of fanfare, our Pahalwanji launched his saloon, a brightly lit shop in the heart of town. Okay. And, did his customers come? You bet they did. They came in droves. To be honest, nobody really came to him because of his capabilities as a barber. In fact, customers usually left his saloon looking more bedraggled than when they had entered. You see, you must understand the psyche of the citizens of Aaraampur. They did not come to him simply to have their hair cut. They came for the honor of having their hair cut by one of the famous sons of Aaraampur. That's why they came, and that's why they kept coming back. And incidentally, I must tell you, like many others in this book, these are real characters. Pahalwanji, I used to go to Pahalwanji to get my hair cut. And most of the time when I came back, my mother would look at me and said, "Ye kya kar diya? What the hell has he done?" But we had no choice. He was the only guy in town. Okay, so that's Aaraampur.
Thank you, Dhruv. That was so interesting. And so basically, these are caricatures, right? Since they're based on people.
They
Wow.
actually, most of them are based on real people. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Do they know that the characters are based on them?
Okay. So in fact, if you look at any movie or serial or book, typically there is a disclaimer in the beginning saying all these characters are fictitious, etc., etc. None of them bear any resemblance to anybody living or dead. In my case, I wanted to say almost all of them are real. Okay. But fortunately, they can't sue me. You know why? Most of them are dead. They can't sue me. Of course, I've added my own masala, so there is some little tweaking, but Pahalwanji was very, very much there.
Well, these embellishments definitely sound so colorful. So yeah, really, everyone should check out Welcome to Aaraampur. So yeah, let's start. Let's start by I think getting to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us like your accomplishments? I mean, I just read out your introduction. It's vast and it's impressive. Can you tell us the story behind all these accomplishments and how it came about?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about my professional life, and then we can get back to where I lived as a kid, which is now Aaraampur. So I was from IIT. I did 2 degrees from there, BTech and doctorate, and then I joined the IT industry. So all these names that you just read out, Glaxo and Nestle and Indianoil and so on, these were consulting assignments I did with them. And then one fine day, I said, enough is enough. I don't want to chase any more business targets. I mean, I want to have fun in life. So, which is where, after about 20 years in the IT industry, I decided to become a professor, and I joined MDI as a prof. I must tell you, convincing my wife was not easy because I was coming from, a corporate job, highly paid corporate job, into a miserable professor salary. But far, far tougher was convincing my in-laws. You know what they said? The immediate reaction was, "Damad pagal ho gaya." We completely understandable. Anyway, finally, I was a prof for about 20 years. I retired about 3 years back. And I've been writing for, I would say, about 25 years now. And it's been fun. In fact, I've been writing books for 25 years. And before that, I used to write for magazines. I've written for newspapers such as the Economic Times, Data Quest, Financial Express, and so on. And it's a lot of fun. So that's broadly my background. And today, therefore, since I'm retired, this is my third innings and probably the most fun innings of all.
Here's hoping that all the innings after this are equally as fun. But that makes me really curious. I mean, like you said, you're from like a strict corporate background, like, right? So, but you've been writing for the last 25 years now. How did it all start? How did you get into writing in the first place?
I've always liked writing. See, I've always liked humor, and I mean, you've seen me speak. It's generally humorous. Um, and I've always liked writing. So I used to write even as a kid in school. I used to be the editor of a school magazine. And then from there, it just grew and grew and grew. Of course, that time I didn't have any subject to write about, but later on I had subjects. So I had IT. My first few books were on simplifying IT technologies for the non-techie, for the manager, right? And that was fun to write. I remember uh, I was writing one of these books and I had a project. My company had sent me on a project, and I was sitting in Cairo, Egypt, on the Nile, right? And my hotel was bang on the Nile. I was on the 13th floor um, in the balcony. I had my laptop and I was typing away and looking down. I could see the Nile. It was such fun. So, that has always been, it's something I've enjoyed doing, and which is why I've continued. And I plan to continue for at least another 30 to 35 years. Once I cross 100, let's see, maybe I'll change my career. But for the moment, this continues.
That's a good spirit, sir. That's a very good spirit.
Absolutely was I keep saying Khushwant Singh was writing till the age of 98. I have to beat the hell out of him. After that, let's see, maybe I'll take up mountaineering. I don't know.
Way to go. Way
Yeah.
to go. Yeah. So you've always had the writer's gene, is it? So
Yeah,
yeah.
by the way, my mother has been a prolific writer all her life, and she's been writing for children, and she must have written about 100+ books. So maybe it came from there.
So it runs in the family.
Yes, I guess so. I guess so.
So Neeta says in the comment section, amazing spirit. I mean, yeah, touche,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I mean, I'm young. Look, I'm nearly 70, but I'm phenomenally young. Don't look at this. This is died.
Wow. So, you mentioned that you were the editor of your school magazine, right? So that goes way back.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah. So if you could,
It's almost Aurangzeb's time. Eh? You guys were you're not even born in that time.
true, true.
Maybe your parents weren't born in that time.
Oh my God. So, if you could go back in time and, talk to that Dhruv, the Dhruv who was the school editor of the magazine and who wrote his first book. Now that you're, 6 books down the line, what advice or, what would you say to that Dhruv writing his first book, writing his first piece?
Actually, what I'd say is exactly what I've done. Enjoy yourself. It's very simple. If you are doing something that you enjoy doing, you'll keep doing it. You'll have fun, and hopefully, in this case, since I've been writing, hopefully readers will also have fun reading it. Right? If you don't enjoy it, if it becomes boring, if it becomes monotonous, and you're sick of chasing deadlines because the editor has told you, look, I have to have this by August, it just won't work. So I would say, um, enjoy what you're doing. In my case, I enjoyed writing. I also enjoy speaking to an audience. So I take a lot of sessions on subjects like startups. Uh, for other people, it may be music. For other people, some other people, it may be painting, whatever. Enjoy what you're doing. That is life.
So well said. So well said. Thank you for that. But given your entire background, it's been very heavy on non-fiction, right? So
Yeah.
this is your first fiction book.
Yeah.
How did this genre shift happen? Like, were you always in love with fiction but never got the chance to write, or how did it happen?
Okay, so you're right. In fact, for the past few years, I have only been writing on the subject of startups, and I've shown you two of those books. And before that, it was, you know, IT technologies for the non-techie. As a kid, I used to live in the hills, I told you, in a small place called Solan, very close to Shimla. In fact, we are from the hills. And I had a very, very wonderful childhood over there, wonderful childhood in school, after school, with the family, and so on and so forth. And it kept coming back to me all the time. So since I've been writing, one day it just struck me, look, hang on, all these interesting characters, all these interesting stories about people who are now dead and cannot therefore sue me. Why not write about them? So that's how it came. I would say it is not really a shift, because I think there are two things in common. Number one, I enjoyed writing all the stuff which I have been writing so far, and I also enjoyed this. In addition, both are humorous. So even my non-fiction books, the for example, this book, which is actually doing fairly well, funding a startup and other nightmare, right? It's a very, very serious subject. It's how to get money from investors, but it's humorous. You read it, a lot of people have told me, look, I've been laughing. In fact, I must tell you one little story here. As a professor, one of my students once sent me a mail after he had passed out. He said, look, I was traveling in a train, and there was a person sitting on the opposite berth, and he was reading a book. And he was laughing. He was reading the book and he kept on laughing. And I was a little surprised. This is what the student said. And then he looked at the book. He said, sir, it was your book. This was a book on the subject of IT for non-IT guys. And the guy was laughing. I think, and frankly, I couldn't have got a better kick in life than I did at that time. So I think lots in common. It was fun, both humorous, and I don't know if this one is one off. This Welcome to Aaraampur. Maybe there'll be sequels. If I can see the faces of some of the people in this audience, maybe they will form the characters in my next book, the sequel. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
And they'll
but
be famous. And by the way, in this case, I will not wait till they're dead.
okay, wow. Yeah, but that has to be amazing, right? I mean, getting to actually see someone reading your book
Yeah,
and turning out, that was such like your, writer moment, right? I mean,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that must have been amazing. Yeah, that's so inspiring. I mean, that's why, guys, everyone in the call, keep writing. Someday you'll also have the chance to see someone else reading your book and feel like you made it.
And
That's
I'm happy to have a coffee and a thick, uh, delicious chocolate pastry with anybody in this audience and sign the book.
so, guys, you heard it. Dhruv is open for a coffee date anytime. You can get in touch with him on LinkedIn. He's active there. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. Yeah.
on LinkedIn. Yeah, yeah. So, you mentioned that this was kind of a very natural thing that came about writing fiction, and it was not a genre shift per chance, right?
Correct.
So, but since you have the experience of writing, of getting published, going through the editor, the agent, the entire process, was publishing Welcome to Aaraampur comparatively easier? Because you had this experience, like between comparing your non-fiction books and the fiction book, the entire process, how it's been.
Actually, on the contrary, it was far, far tougher. Far tougher. Fortunately, it's the same publisher ultimately, which is Penguin. Um, you know, Let me explain, and maybe those in the audience who are writing or planning to write, maybe they'll get something from my experience. Um, in the other books I wrote, for example, in this one, Funding a Startup, there is a very clear market out there. There is a clear market segment, which is founders who either have a startup or want to create a startup. And I would imagine today you'll probably have lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of such people, right? In fact, every college student potentially has a startup, right? So there's a huge audience out there, and funding is a very major problem. Everybody wants to understand how to get money. So convincing the publisher, I didn't go through an agent, by the way. Convincing the publisher to publish this book was not so tough, right? However, when it comes to fiction, what you must realize, Jessica, is that everybody believes he can be a best-selling author in the area of fiction. I'm not saying I'm a best-selling author, but all of us believe that. So there are just so many people out there, and there are so many books. In fact, I was talking to one bookshop owner, and he said, "Sir, there are far, far, far more authors than bookshops." Now, what do I stock? So publishers are very, very choosy before they agree to publish something in the area of fiction. And, if it is somebody very, very well known, for example, Jhumpa Lahiri or Chetan Bhagat, or, people of that, or Ruskin Bond, then obviously they are keen, but otherwise they're very cagey. In my case, I think the good thing that happened was that I had a relationship. My earlier books had done well, and therefore we decided to give it a shot. But normally, getting fiction published is not easy, particularly if you've gone to a well-known publisher such as Penguin, because Penguin is one of the top few, right? So I would say, if it is fiction and you're not getting a publisher, maybe self-publishing is the answer.
Thank you for those insights. We have a lot of aspiring writers in the call right now with us, so these are useful tips. Definitely.
But just remember one thing. Just remember one thing, please. Writing books, never write books to make money. You will never make money. I lose money. I only lose money, right? So I've lost money in my investments in startups. I've lost money while writing books. But in both of them, I had fun. So remember, if you want to make money, then you must write a textbook. Textbooks, if they get prescribed either in school or in college, then, every college will take in what? 50 copies, 200 copies, and it will go on year after year after year. So that's the only way to make money. Or, of course, you become a best-selling author, in which case, your book sells in any case. But otherwise, writing should be because, you have something to say and you believe some people are going to like reading it. It'll be fun to write. That's the only reason to write, not to make money.
That is so true. I mean, all of us here also who are in this call, we are all here because we write for the love of writing, right? Not to become an international bestseller or to make money. Right. Because Ruskin Bond wasn't always Ruskin Bond. Jhumpa Lahiri wasn't always Jhumpa Lahiri. They also started out like us, as nobodies. Yeah. Right. So definitely you're right. It can always be a hit and miss, or you can knock it out of the park. But either way, we don't write for the outcome. We write because we love to write. So correct. Yeah, great words from a great man.
No. Words may be great, but not a great man. No way.
All right. So coming back to Welcome to Aaraampur, you mentioned that it was your childhood in Solan that kind of inspired the book, right? Yeah. But all these years later, how did Aaraampur come to you? What was the inception of the book? Like, did the character come?
Yeah, I've always liked the period. In fact, I've liked most periods of life of mine. I've always liked the time I spent in the hills. By the way, I must clarify one thing. While it is based on my childhood, I have tried to modernize it to make it a little more acceptable to today's young readers. So, for example, there are mobile phones, there are cab hailing apps, right? There are laptops, right, which obviously didn't exist at that time. So since I have always had I had a good time over there, I kept remembering this. And I kept remembering all these characters. So there was Pelwanji, which I mentioned. Then there was a carpenter called Lekhram, where I've changed the name. I called him Mangatram, who would always be having chai and smoking a bedi, always, without exception. And I mean, if you think carpenters in Delhi or Bombay give you gray hair, this guy would, I don't know, make you lose all your hair. It just would not deliver anything, but he was very, very pleasant, he was always in smiles. And then you had the Chetu, right? The odd job man. So I remember um, when he came and painted our house, okay? And at the end of that, my mother looked at the wall and said, ध्रुव ये घर पहले से ज्यादा अंधेरा नहीं हो गया? I mean, that was painting. So this is the kind of people we had. And I kept remembering all this, right? And simple characters, good, fun characters. So since all this was always there in my mind, at the back of my mind, and by the way, I keep visiting Solan and Shimla, that area, that belt all the time. One day it just struck me, hang on, why don't I write about these guys? So I spoke to Penguin, and Penguin said no. So then I spoke to Penguin again, and Penguin said no. And then I spoke again they said no. But I kept trying, and finally said, look, this idiot will not give up. Chalo, let's do it once. So that's how they published it, and hopefully it'll do well.
Wow, I think it's already done well, Dhruv. I mean, the blurb is from Ruskin Bond himself on the cover of the book. So you already made it. I think the book is it'll have like an amazing audience and a reader
Because
base.
Ruskin Bond is also from the hills, small town in the hills. So he's not even from Mussoorie. He's from a suburb of Mussoorie called Landor. And that's similar to the place I grew up in. So a lot of what he has been through is similar to what I've been through, except that he's a few months older. Well, actually, not a few months. He's about 20 years older.
Wow. But I'm sure he enjoyed the book, enough to give you like a very nice blurb.
Yeah,
So that's something.
Hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you were talking about the characters and how funny and charming they are, when I was reading the book, I felt this warmth in the relationship dynamics, the overall picture of the community you've painted and how you kind of, it's like a smooth transition into Aaraampur instead of, getting to know it chapter by chapter. So how did you manage to bring in that warmth? Like share a little bit about your writing process. How did you shape these characters so well?
So first of all, I must clarify, these are real characters, right? Most of them, almost all of them. I would say 80% of them. And they lived in in a small town, particularly in the hills, life is very peaceful, right? There are no deadlines. Even if there are deadlines, people don't care about them, right? Um, I mean, I've taken the example of the carpenter, I've taken the example of that painter, the plumber, all these guys. So, you have no mad rush to reach office, and you're stuck in a traffic jam, and you're swearing at the guy in the next car. It doesn't happen. It's very simple. You don't have cars, you walk. That's it. So life is very simple. It is very pleasant, and it is anyway a small community. You know people. You know many of the people around you. Unlike in cities like Delhi, Bombay, where, for example, I live in Delhi, and many people in my lane I've never seen, and I don't think I'll see them, right? But there you would know virtually everybody, and there's no class system. There is no, there is no. These are the educated guys. This guy is only a dudwala. He's only a plumber. He's only a sweeper. No, they're all friends, right? And everybody has chai together. So I think when you talk about the warmth, it is there in these towns anyway, these small towns and villages also. I've also lived in a village close to Solan where my father was farming. So I would, in fact, I would say to all the people who are listening in, spend some time in these chota towns. You'll find that life is so much simpler, so much more peaceful, and everybody is a friend. There's no class distinction. Nobody looks at whether you have a 3-story building or a 2-story building or you're a tenant. Nobody looks at the size of your car. You don't have a car, right? In fact, when we were living there in Solan, our proud possession was one transistor radio and one bicycle. Bicycle was the only form of transport we had, one bicycle. So I think this is real. It's real. And since I liked the time that I spent over there, I mean, I would imagine that real peace, that real warmth, that real, the community feeling has probably come out in the book.
You're seriously making me want to check out the country life.
Oh, do that. And I would imagine most of our chota towns are similar. And in the hills, it's even better because in the hills, people by and large, in the hills, people generally don't like working. So they have a good time. They just sit down, they are on a charpai and they smoke a bidi. You don't have to smoke a bidi, but you can have tea.
Yes. So, I can't get over you've been writing from 25 years, so which is like a long time, right? It sounds like a
No,
long time.
I'm saying books for the past. So my first book came out in the year 2000, or just to 2001, I think. But before, I've been writing ever since I was in school. So which is what, about over 50 years ago. Books, yes, last 25 years.
Yeah. So I can only imagine the amount of book recommendations you would have for us. I'm sure the audience would love, fiction, non-fiction. What do you read? Some records, please. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I dislike heavy books. I mean, I dislike them. I read 5 pages and then I give it up. Right. If you look at fiction, I've been a fan of um, who's the author of Day of the Jackal? Frederick Forsyth, right? Some of his books, Day of the Jackal, Odessa File, they are absolute masterpieces. I mean, he keeps you on tenterhooks till the end, right? Ken Follett similarly, right? I mean, The Eye of the Needle, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? And the twists in between. So very, very well written. I also like, since I like humor, I've also liked a lot of humorous authors. For example, there is one unknown kind of author. Most people haven't heard of him. His name is Stephen Leacock. He's a Canadian writer, and some of his stories they just remind me of Aaraampur. Okay, so that's Stephen Leacock. And amongst humorous authors, yeah, one very, very good book was, of course, My Family and Other Animals, where Gerald Durrell wanted to be known as a naturalist. I don't think anybody knows that, but he is remembered as a humorous writer for that masterpiece, right? So that's fiction. If you look at non-fiction, one of the books I've always been um, impressed by is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Worth reading, definitely worth reading, and worth reading again and again. I think most important, putting into practice. Right? The other very good book is the entire series of books about Warren Buffett, because you realize how simple his philosophy was, and yet how much money he made. Right? So his rules are very, very simple. So the entire series of books is worth reading. The other book which I found good, which is semi-fiction, non-fiction, was this thing about our independence, Freedom at Midnight, by Dominique Lapierre and Collins, because it was an eye-opener. Because many things, by the way, I was born after independence. I'm not that old. So many things I just wasn't aware of till I read them here, and that's about our country. So I would strongly suggest uh, people living in India read something like that. It may be that book, because you learn a lot of stuff that happened. And so these were some very, very good books I've read.
Wow. Thank you for your list. So this is going to be the last question from my side, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So people, if you have any questions, please feel free to start putting them in the chat from now. So yeah, we always ask, published authors what advice they have for aspiring authors, especially who want to be published by, say, Penguin or, the big five. So yeah, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Okay, so first of all, I must tell you, getting hold of a top-notch publisher. I've been fortunate, right? It took time, but I've been fortunate. My earlier books were published by Tata McGraw-Hill, but then they stopped publishing professional books. They said, look, only textbook. I said, textbooks are too damn boring. I will not write textbooks. Sorry. So then I switched to Penguin and the last 3 books. And then even now there are some more books coming out. They're all with Penguin. It's not easy to, get into a tie-up with a well-known top-notch publisher. For the simple reason, there are lots and lots of people competing, lots of them. And I had a tough time. It's not been easy. I would say your best bet is, firstly, identify something which has a very large audience and which is not a crowded space. For instance, when I first went to Penguin, I said, look, I'll write about startups. And my editor, Radhika Marwa, her name is, a very, very good editor. She said, look, there are so many books on startups. Why will yours sell? I didn't know what to say. So I went back, I thought about it, and I realized I was an angel investor. So I had been investing in startups and I had been saying yes to some and no to some, and a lot of learning had taken place there. So then I said, okay, let me focus on one specific aspect of startups, which is getting money, getting funding. And then I went back to Radhika and I said, look, okay, here I'll talk about number one, funding your startup, on which you don't have too many books, and books available in India are probably none, maybe 0, maybe 1, right? So it'll be Indian cases, and I will also talk about not just success stories but failures. So A, it's about funding. B, it's about Indian startups, and not the huge guys like Bajaj and Naukri and so on. The tiny ones who nobody has heard of, but you identify with them. The reader identifies with them because he's in a similar position. And I also talk about failures. So then she said, look, this is unique. Let's do it. So that's how it started. So I would say, very, very important, try and identify something, an area, a subject, which you know, which you like, and which has a large enough audience, and which is not getting into a crowded market, because getting into a crowded market is not easy, and no big time publisher will normally accept this, right? So that is as far as the big publishers are concerned, but please remember, it is not easy. The other option obviously is go to sorry, to the next level of publisher or even self-publishing. Write what you think makes sense. Once it starts doing well, take that book to the publisher, and that's a kind of resume for you, your resume. So you're not just going with your face and 2 pages. You're actually going with the book that has been published. And if that is good, if that is done well, sure, you have an option. But I think the subject, it can't be crowded, and it has to have a large market, and that's it. But please remember, it's not easy. You'll have to make a lot of effort. I made a lot of effort, and fortunately, it worked out in my case.
Wow. Thank you, Dhruv. Those were some really, really great tips. I'm sure all the writers on the call will really appreciate it. And coming to them now, lots of questions for you in the comment section.
Sure.
I'll just switch the view so that you can see everyone. Okay, a few cameras are on.
If somebody wants the address of Palwan Knight, somewhere upstairs. I told you he's dead.
All right. So the first question is from Nihal Jaiswal. Hi, sir. Nihal this side. Somewhat similar
So by the way,
is
I'm not sir. Any man who calls me sir, I have an understanding. You call me sir, I'll call you madam. I'm Dhruv.
yes. So, guys, you heard him. He's Dhruv. He's not sir. Okay. So yes, so Nihal, hi Nihal this side. Somewhat similar is my situation currently. I have very keen interest in analyzing and valuing business and industries in early age, but the market is such that entry in the space of interest seems to be pretty tough. So would you suggest in waiting and going for where I eventually want to be, professor in your case? Or should I take up any opportunity that's coming, like you took as your career in IT? Would really love to have your suggestion and view on the same.
Okay, so there are a few things which are not yet clear with regard to the question Nihal has asked. But so Nihal, everybody goes through this. Everybody, you know, I have a favorite saying of mine. You know what you really should have done in life as a career only after you retired. And by then it's too late. Eh? I would say something very, very simple. I think the primary thing you have to look at is what do you enjoy doing? If you enjoy doing something, career is not an issue. Money is not an issue. It will come. Yes, you may not have, a private yacht of the kind Mark Zuckerberg gave to Mukesh Ambani's son. You may not have that. You may not have, a private island which Bill Gates gave his son. But you'll have enough to live. So I would say do something you like doing. If you can do something which you like doing and which you're good at, career will happen, money will happen, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is you will enjoy the many, many years you have ahead of you. Because if you get into something where you see an opportunity and the money is high and the career prospects are bright, but you don't like doing it, your next, I don't know how old you are, but your next whatever 10, 20, 30, 40 years can be hell because you're doing it only because you're stuck in it. So I would always say, um, always take up something you enjoy doing. Yes, there has to be an opportunity. If all you enjoy doing is let's say painting circles on the floor, then obviously there is no opportunity, there's no career there, right? But as long as you enjoy doing something and there are opportunities there, that's the best thing to do. In fact, I would say in my case, probably I should have become a professor 5 years earlier because that's what I really, I got freedom. I got freedom to do what I wanted to do. I had time to write and so on. So I would always say just chase what you like doing. If you're good at that, that's a wonderful combination. Just go ahead.
Thanks, Dhruv. Next question is from Renu Singh Parmar. Do you hope that Aaraampur would be made into a series?
Okay. So, interesting question, Renu. Um, I have had about 4 or 5 emails where people want to convert this into a serial because it's a very typical 10, 12 episode humorous serial, something like I would say Malgudi Days, or if you remember, many years back we used to have a serial called Nukkad, which was semi humorous, right? um, so yes, there is a lot of interest. The only thing is making a serial is an expensive process, and obviously somebody has to fund that. And I don't know how expensive it is. I don't have the money to fund it. But if Renu, you have the money, I'd be very happy to talk to you. I will also treat you to coffee and unlimited chocolate pastries. But yes, there is interest, and I would love to do it.
Thanks, thanks for that, Dhruv. All right. So, next question is from Subi Taba. Hello, sir. Again, I'll change it to Dhruv.
No, no.
um,
If it's okay, is it a woman? Is it a man?
no, it's a woman.
Okay, then I'll call her sir. Okay.
Okay. It is nice hearing your positive conversation about writing. My query, how to navigate publishing without an agent And after submission of the manuscript, how long did it take for your short story manuscript to be ready as a final polished book with Penguin Publishing? Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't have any agent because I was fairly clear. See, when I started with Tata McGraw-Hill, which was about 25 years ago, at that time, what I was writing was, there weren't any such books in the market, right? And Tata McGraw-Hill was very keen, and I think I had one meeting with the MD, and that was it. He agreed to publish this book, and then of course I published two more in the same series. So that was not an issue. I would say, since you're saying agent, I don't know. I've never been through an agent because, if you look at the top few publishers, you already know who they are. All you need is a connect. All you need is somebody who's willing to, you need the email of somebody. And normally these people are quite willing to meet. So when I met Radhika, the editor at Penguin, I just sent her a mail and I got the mail from somebody and we met. Of course, she said no. It took a long time before she finally agreed. But I didn't need to go through an agent, and I don't think it is necessary, provided you have some connections where friends will give you connections. Jessica from Himalayan will give you a lot of connections. She's bursting with connections. So I don't think you need an agent, but of course I don't know. I mean, I've never dealt with them. Once you've written the book, once you submit the manuscript, it takes about typically 5 to 6 months for the book to come out. And it depends on how keen the publisher is to bring it out in a hurry. For example, my next book, it's top secret, by the way. Even Vladimir Putin doesn't know what that book is about. So I'll keep it that way right now. But you'll see it in June. So that book is likely to have a far bigger audience than the audience I've had in the past. And therefore, the publisher has been very keen. So they are speeding it up, right? But a thing like Aaraampur, I mean, it went on Aramse. So I would say Aaraampur took about 6 odd months, but this one will probably take about 4 months. Right? And there are multiple steps in this. So there is a lot of proofreading by the copy editor, and then it comes back to you. And usually it's a very, very positive collaborative effort where in most cases, unless there is wrong English or unless there is a policy of the publisher which is violated, what the author wants to write is what finally goes through. And in most cases, the copy editor gives you good feedback. So my copy editors, I've had 3 or 4 of them in the past. They've always given good feedback. Some I've accepted, some I've not. And after that, then of course there is the typesetting and so on. Total of about 6 months. But I must tell you one more thing, one very, very important thing, since many of the people on this talk are potential writers or current writers. You must remember, the publisher has, depending on the size of the publisher and the standing of the publisher would have God knows how many thousands of books, right? So they will start by publicizing your book. They will give you your, they'll have talks, they will arrange for book reviews and so on. Ultimately, after a point, you have to take over. So there are a lot of authors I met who say, I'm very happy writing, but I can't market. I said, then be happy writing. It may not sell. You have to market. So, I talk about my 2 books on startups. I do a hell of a lot of talks on various fora where I talk about these books. And I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn where people join in and ultimately they see that these books are relevant and therefore they buy them. So a lot of effort has to be put in by the author as part of marketing. You can't just say, I've written it and now the rest is up to God. No, God doesn't care. Let's be very blunt.
Thank you, Dhruv. Subi, I hope that answers your question. The next question is from Geeta Shri Hazarika. Any tip for capturing unique voices of characters from a distinct region in dialogues?
You mean in vernacular? Is that what the question is? I'm not sure. So, by the way, this book is it's actually meant for audiences which are Hindi speak. Well, obviously it's in English, but they understand Hindi. So the dialogues are all in Hindi, almost all, because that's the way it happened. And for the carpenter to talk in English, it sounds very, very artificial, and therefore I decided to knock it out and just stick to Hindi, which means that a large part of South India is out of bounds for this book, Aaraampur. In fact, somebody sent me a mail and he was very angry. He says, "Look, I didn't realize there was so much Hindi." And he sent it from Chennai. He says, "I don't know Hindi." And after 5 pages, I gave up. But fortunately, he sent me a mail, so I apologized. I said, "Yes, it's meant for people who can read English, but they understand Hindi." So I sent him a copy of my other book, which is purely in English, and he was hopefully happy. So, yes, um, sure, you can look at vernacular as part of, as the dialogues which people use. But you must remember, if there is a large chunk of that, then you're restricted to areas which understand that language. So, for example, if a large chunk of it is in Bengali, then you're restricted to Bengal, or maybe Bangladesh if you're able to export it. Or alternatively, you can, after you've written the dialogue in your whatever language, Telugu or Bengali or whatever, after that you have a translated version in English. That's also possible, but that breaks up the flow, so it's not very great. So I would say, if you're doing that, be prepared for the fact that you will be restricted to that particular region. And I don't know if that was the question, and I hope I've answered it.
Yeah, Geeta Shri is nodding. You can see her. So I think, yeah, you've answered her question. Thank
No, I
you.
can't see anybody because I'm on the phone, so I can only see you.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
All
hold
right.
on. Oh, now I can see people. Now I can see. Oh, now I can see people. Good. And it's great. It's great because I see so many people with hair. In our family, it is such a damned rarity. Whenever we go to a family function, and if we don't know whether this is the right venue or not, just look at the tops of people's heads, and we come to know the fact that it's our family.
Also, so guys, I don't know, but if you noticed in Dhruv's story, this is a very nice hack. Send him an angry letter and you'll get a free book. Okay,
Oh,
so remember
in
this.
any case, I promise people free coffee and chocolate pastry. But you have to eat the chocolate pastry. Don't say it's bad for my figure. Don't say it's calories. It is calories, obviously.
Yes. All right. So next question is from Dave M. Hello, Professor. It's a great to be in the Zoom meeting. I am happy to know that someone like me is also an author. I am PhD in electrical engineering and infrastructure, worked almost 30 plus years, have some books published, and I have some more on the pipeline. My question was very simple. Why the title Himalayan authors?
Why is the title Himalayan authors?
Yeah, that's a little Dave, if you're there and if you'd like to, supplement your question.
My apologies. It was a typing error.
Okay.
It was just asking about the Himalayan team, authors team, something like that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I just got this mail and I popped into the Zoom. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So that's a question for you, Jessica.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. But it's really nice to be in your meeting and meeting Jessica.
Sure. Welcome. Great. And by the way, you said your background is similar to mine. Yes, most of it is similar except the hair.
No, so hair I changed myself after some time, after coming and settling back in India. I've been in the Middle East and Australia for almost 30 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
so you earned your millions of dollars. Oh, okay, wonderful.
It's not about money, sir. I own a charity and all that is gone there.
Yeah,
it's not about money.
Yeah,
now
sure.
I've taken a different route and the hair is a part of that. That's all.
Okay.
It's a part of me. But I will surely start reading your books.
Okay, sure.
I'll surely start doing that. And can I know, sir, are you really, are you based in the Himalayan region?
No, I live in Delhi now.
Oh, Delhi.
But I keep going back. I keep
Okay.
going back to my roots.
Oh,
That's
that's what I
home.
have done. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
I
the
have
home
done.
that's the home I like to be in. This is the home my wife likes to be in. So you can figure out why I live in Delhi.
This is what happens. This is what happens.
Yeah.
But really nice knowing that you're a professor and you have some books. I'll just go through your series of books. I'll surely get in touch with you, sir. Hope
Welcome.
we keep connected.
Sure, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dev.
Thank you,
And
Jessica.
yes, anytime. I'll leave you information about the Himalayan writing retreat.
Thank you, Jessica.
All right, great. Okay, next question is from Aarupam. Will you advise something for regional language writers?
I've never done it, so I don't know. I would say the same thing, which I said, I think, about 10 minutes ago. Just make sure that there is enough of an audience, because if your regional language is Bengali, you'll get obviously a very large audience, not an issue. But if your language is something like Tulu, then the audience is going to be very, very tiny, right? Or Konkani is going to be very tiny. So I think that's the one thing. But frankly, I'm not the right person to advise you because I've never done it. I've only written in English, and dialogues are sometimes in Hindi. Although I speak a little bit of Bengali and Punjabi.
Wow. All right, thanks, Dhruv. Next question is from Vineet. Hello, which self-publishing platforms would you suggest?
Frankly, I don't have an answer because I've never had to go there. My suggestion is, because for Aaraampur, I actually looked at that option. My suggestion is go to the internet and just check out the reviews. Or maybe ask Jessica, maybe ask Himalayan. They might be able to help you out. Fortunately, I started with McGraw Hill and went to Penguin. So I didn't have this problem. Therefore, I am clearly not in the right position to advise you. Sorry.
Yes. So we have a blog titled 50 Self-Publishing Houses in India. It's there on our website. I will share the link in our WhatsApp group, FDC WhatsApp group. Do check it out, Vineet. I hope that will be helpful for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the next question. So Renu says, Dhruv, I don't have the money, but hope to see the series and have coffee and cake with you.
Absolutely. So where do you live? Are you in Delhi or somewhere nearby?
No, I'm not in Delhi, but I could certainly come over to meet you. I'm in Jaipur. Were you there for the literary fest?
When is it happening?
No, it's already over now.
Okay.
It was last month. Jaipur Literary Festival. Yeah, literature festival.
No, I
Yeah.
No. So
I really admire humor, because it's you don't find much of humor around, and writing humor is not very easy.
It's not
You
easy.
know,
No, I must tell
you
you,
must feel that way to be able to write it.
Yes, you're right. You know, when I wrote these earlier books, Dream Founder and Funding of Startup, my family, my wife and children were constantly at loggerheads with me. They said, cut down the humor, cut down the humor. These are serious topics. I mean, you're talking of raising money. How can you make it a funny book? No, so it was a constant tussle. I had to cut down the humor. But when I wrote Aaraampur, they said, now you do what the hell you want, because this is meant to be a funny book. So I just cut through.
Absolutely. I'm going to get my hands on it very soon.
Sure.
And I hope to see it as a series, because I can almost visualize how it would be. Some of the stories I've written are also on those lines, actually.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was really very entertaining.
Sure. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So I think we have the next question is also from Vineet.
So by the way, Jessica, I'm sorry, before you continue, I had sent you a large box of thick chocolate pastries to be distributed to the audience. Have you sent them or have you eaten them?
No, I just kept them all to myself. Sorry. No. Should have probably sent them to Devdatta, because if chocolate comes to me, there is absolutely no way it's going anywhere else. No.
No, by the way, I'll give you a solution, a brilliant solution, which I discovered 3 days ago. I like dark chocolate. And if you take that Amul dark chocolate, that big slab, each piece is 27 calories. Even if you starve, you cannot eat less calories. So take that.
Yeah, that's a nice hack. Thanks, Dhruv.
Yeah.
All right. So Vineet is asking for your books on startups and founders, what was the split of numbers from different channels, say distributors, online, direct sales, etc.?
Okay. So okay, so let me take some numbers. So this one, I think it sold about 12,000 copies so far, and hopefully that will continue because it's a hot topic and everybody wants money. I would say about 40 to 50% of, probably 50% or thereabouts, maybe more, was Amazon. Okay. Because, everybody who comes to know that there is a book searches on Amazon and finds the book and therefore buys it. Or many people just search on a given topic. So funding or startup or, investing or investor or angel investor, and they reach Amazon and they buy it. So I would say half or maybe a little more was Amazon. About 10% was Kindle. Although for non-fiction books, Kindle is a less preferred option for the simple reason that in a non-fiction kind of book, you need to keep going back and forth, and that's not very easy in Kindle, right? But for a book of fiction, you just read through one shot, right? So about 10%, about I would say 30 odd percent, so maybe 3.5 odd thousand, 4,000 would be from bookshops, and I do a lot of signing. So I sign books at the airport, I sign books at bookshops in various cities, wherever I travel. And that's about 30%, 35%. And a few, I would say maybe 1,000, 1,500, would be sessions which I have taken where, the participants, the organizer of the session, bought the book and distributed them to the participants. So I would say the bulk, the largest chunk has been Amazon, and I would strongly recommend that to anybody. I mean, today, it's so easy. People don't have to walk, they just click.
Great insights again, Dhruv. Thank you so much.
It's much more Amazon than Flipkart. Much more Amazon than Flipkart. Flipkart is not really the best place for books, although there have been some sales there.
All right. Great. All right. This is the last question from the audience. It's from Ranjan. Which author makes Professor Nath laugh?
Okay. Many of them. First of all, my mother. Now she's very old, so she doesn't write anymore. But her name is Pratibha Nath, and she's written a lot of books for kids, and she's also written articles, funny articles. So maybe that's where the genes come from. Except that she has much more hair than I do. Stephen Leacock, I told you. P.G. Wodehouse. And, I mean, this is a group of mature adults, but one set of books I always like to read again and again is, I don't know if you've seen them, William, Richmal Crompton. It's meant for kids. It's meant for, I would say, people in the age group of maybe 10 to 15, 10 to 20. But me, I'm almost 70, and I still like to read that. So anybody where it is nice and fresh and humorous, I'm happy to read. And again and again.
All right. That's all we have time for. Thank you so much for everyone who showed up for Welcome to Aaraampur. Do check it out. The book is available everywhere. Do read it. Get in touch with Dhruv on LinkedIn. Let us know how you liked it. And, just spread the word about the book.